Hello and welcome to No CB, a grand strategy podcast. This is for the week of the 27th of October, 2021. I'm Len, I'm your host. I'm here with Rose.
Hi.
And with Father Loris.
What's up? I got my name.
Who's apparently named Lord Lambert, and I am Father Loris today.
I'll solve that in a second.
And I am just now tweeting out, yes, I am just typing up a tweet that we are live because I forgot to do that. We were talking about Dune. So this is going to be the Dune podcast this week. We are we do have some sci-fi news though. We have some cool Stellaris stuff to talk about,
which is as far away from Dune as you can possibly get.
Exactly. It's like the anti-Arrakis. But we'll start, as we normally do, with the unreleased game with Victoria 3, where we finally got a look at diplomatic actions. Which
so wait, you can talk to other nations and
apparently, yeah, it's a bold new direction for the franchise, but we'll see how it goes for them. So I think the main thing that's different here versus previous Paradox games is the sort of diplomatic capacity, which they've talked about in the past, where just like you're using your diplomatic bandwidth or like I don't know, wattage or whatever to maintain pacts and things like that.
You can only do too much without upsetting too many people, I guess.
Yeah, or you just like if you're not an important enough country, they just don't care and like maybe enough to talk to you. Something like that. There's a few different subject relationships that they showed off that are kind of interesting, where there's like two different levels of colonial subjects and then two different levels of non-colonial subjects.
Yeah.
Or like protectorates, which could become puppets. Dominions can become territories. Go for it.
Which is something we didn't have in Vicky, right? I mean, like a vassal was just a vassal forever. There's no way you could vassalize.
Right.
Annex them. But I quite like the idea of doing Diplo vessels now. Makes sense. I mean, it just happened historically.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, and here's something. Since they have 2 levels now, do you think they'd add more with expansions?
It's possible, because, like Hearts of Iron 4 has, 3 or 4 now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The levels of subject. And then they also...
Not 2. This is, 6? Yeah, 6 different kinds.
Right, yeah. So...
I'd be interested to know if there's, an advantage to go in the opposite direction, because historically... what was the... I got my name of a report now. Where it was basically giving... Canada, it was a response to the American Revolution, giving Canada and Australia, New Zealand a lot more autonomy over time as a way of making sure the American War didn't happen in other colonies, right?
Right, yeah.
So is there an advantage to giving Australia more autonomy? And
I'm curious if it's going to be based on like a puppet takes up more diplomatic capacity maybe than a protectorate does.
Yeah.
Or like a dominion. Yeah, or like a territory takes up more than a dominion. I guess with a territory, you're also having to worry about bureaucracy more. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it works. So vassal.
Let's say here we go. Tributary maintenance costs 50.
Yeah. So I assume you'd be able to have more dominions than you can territories, probably.
Yeah.
And that they'll handle their own business a little bit more. Interestingly, I actually looked up one time why Canada did not join the American Revolution, and apparently it's just because the Anglophone parts of Canada in 1776 were extremely underpopulated. And most of the people living there at that point were French, and they didn't care. We're not going to join the United States of America. We don't even speak your language. So yeah, even well into, I mean, today to some extent, but even well into the 1900s, the Canadian Maritimes have always been pretty sparsely populated.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Canadian population. Mm-hmm. It's It's all of it's whatever the parallel is. I forgot. You're the one out west, Leanna. Was it the 59th parallel?
Something like that. Yeah.
But like 90% of Canadian population lives under that.
Yeah. It's within 100 miles of the U.S. border. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
And in 1776, it was just basically nobody. It was like there were quite a few French people, but yeah, it was an open frontier for the most part, just like a lot of the Western U.S. was. Obviously, there were native people there, but they weren't going to join the United States.
They weren't interested in that. No,
yeah, I have a bad feeling about this. Yeah. So vassals are now going to be only for unrecognized powers, which is kind of interesting. I actually looked it up, and the last vassal state to exist on planet Earth was what was it? It's the Emirate of something in Central Arabia. The Emirate of Jabal Shammar, which was nominally a vassal of the Ottoman Empire until it was conquered by the Saudis in 1921. So I feel like the Ottomans should even if they're a great power, they should get some like vassal exception where they can still have vassals. Unless Paradox is just going to model those as puppets. I don't know. I don't even know how much different those two things are going to be.
Yeah. I just want to know what happens when you become recognized. I guess just your vassals become puppets, I assume.
I guess so.
If you look at the description for vassal and puppet, it's pretty much the same.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
That's true. Yeah.
It's just the name of it.
But also, this also applies to tributaries. So I'm curious, do you lose all of your tributaries if you go from unrecognized to recognized? Or do they become protectorates? I'll have to see how that works.
Yeah.
So pretty interesting. One thing I noticed, I do not see there is a diplomatic action called violate sovereignty, which is just like, we're going to move our armies through here, deal with it, that creates a diplomatic incident.
Yeah.
I don't see military access on here. So I'm wondering if there's going to be a way to peacefully negotiate military access, or if you have to violate sovereignty.
Yeah, or if it's
presumably
allies or violating sovereignty, that's pretty much
Yeah. I would presume you can probably move troops around within your own market. That would be my guess.
If you had an alliance with someone, you could definitely move troops.
So I'll be interested to see, how that works.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is all non-final, and it's probably not an extensive list. So
I do like that you can actually just begin damaging relations.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go spit in your soup at the state dinner with them.
Yeah, exactly. I love it.
Forget to bow. Turn your back as you walk out the door.
It'd be interesting to see if people if it depends on what nation is being sovereignty is being violated, and if people care about it. Because obviously, if Germany violates Belgium's sovereignty, that's going to be a big deal. But will France care if Belgium violates the sovereignty of Djibouti or something? Is that going to cause huge issues? I don't know.
I would think it would probably be whether or not the country has an interest there.
Yeah,
we saw last week with national interest. But we will. We'll have to see. I have a particular interest myself in when CK3 Royal Court is going to be coming out, though.
Yeah,
and. For now, they are just saying 2022. We got a little update saying that it's taking a little longer than they expected, particularly in terms of stability, because they're adding so much stuff that Crusader Kings and also any Paradox game has not done before. So they're saying the release date's going to be 2022, and we'll hear more about it soon. TM. Generally, I do understand why people might be a little bit antsy that CK3 was this huge deal on launch, and we've gotten one flavor pack, and it's probably going to be another whole year after Northern Lords almost before we actually get a full expansion.
Get more content, yeah.
whereas I think CK3 or CK2 had like 3 expansions in its first year. So there was Legacy of Rome, Sword of Islam, and then the Republic was either late that year or it was like early 2013. It might have been early 2013.
Yeah.
These like one smaller expansion and 2 pretty big expansions.
Yeah.
I personally think a lot of this has to probably do with COVID for one thing.
100%. Like, I feel we've talked about it a few times now.
Yeah.
Like, people saying like working from home and not having office hours and stuff. As much as people seem to big it up online, it's not great.
Yeah. Well, that and the fact
people's
that
mental health. So
they've been growing the team very quickly. Like if you look at the job postings, so you have to bring those people on, you have to train them, you have to figure out how to like fit them into a pipeline.
Yep.
I think that probably has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
CK3 is just a lot more resource intensive than CK2 in terms of, the character models, and now we're adding environment models and like all this stuff that PDS hasn't really had to think about before. So, I generally am always in favor of delaying stuff if it means it's better when it finally does come out.
Yeah, and I think most people are in that bracket now. I mean, you look back like 5-10 years ago, people would be furious about this sort of thing, but now I think most people are pretty fine with it. The classic Miyamoto quote, isn't it, about a bad game launched early? And
well, I don't think anyone wants another Leviathan.
No.
Yeah.
Paradox especially doesn't want to Leviathan.
That might have something to do with it too. Is they saw the reception to Leviathan and they're like, okay, we really got to make sure that we get as many bugs out of this before we launch it as possible.
Especially because it's the first expansion for CK3.
Yeah.
Right. It's they kind of have a lot to prove with this. So, yeah.
I mean, Snowlet's saying I'd say no sooner than February. If they did February 14th, just put it on CK2's anniversary.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. We also got a little bit more of a look at some changes to the culture system, which I won't say it was, directly inspired by my forum thread called "I Don't Think Culture should have a fixed ethos" in Crusader Kings 3, which you can go read on the Paradox forums, where it has a whole bunch of upvotes and likes. But at the same time, cultures no longer have a fixed ethos in CK3. You could change it without having to diverge your culture. It costs quite a lot of prestige, especially if there's a couple things that modify it. I'm trying to find your total number of counties. I think has an effect. Basically what they said is if you have like a small condensed cultural sphere like the Byzantines do with the Greek culture, it probably makes more sense to evolve your culture and just keep it Greek. Whereas, if you send a Norse adventurer off to India, it's probably going to make more sense to, even if you're the culture head, to create a divergent culture, more or less.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah. The reason I like this is just because it tells a better story about how cultures work. Cultures are dynamic, and I also I've talked about it on the show before. I think it feels very iffy to me to say that a specific historical culture is very stoic or very warlike. Like those are stereotypes, and in some cases they prove to be true.
Yeah.
In many cases, stereotypes are based on reality, but they're pulled so far that they're like cartoons.
And even just like historically speaking, there were French people in the year 1000. There were French people in the year 1450. It would not have looked all that similar, though, if you visited a French court in 1000 versus visiting a French court in 1450. And it's not like they created a new culture that was like early modern French. It's just the French culture changed over time.
Yeah.
So I think this is also more historical feeling as well.
As all cultures do, right?
Yeah, of course. So, it'd be really interesting.
That's yeah, because like say if you had the English culture being stoic, does not make sense in this time period. Like people have the idea of like
that's a modern stereotype. Yeah,
yeah. I mean, like even now, I think probably the stiff upper lip is sadly dead in Britain. But like that was very much invented during the Napoleonic War, and then full felt into the Victorian era and died out. Probably good things happen from that, I guess, and bad things. But
England was more French at this point.
Yeah.
At the beginning of after 1066, there was a ton of French influence.
Yeah, I mean, you look at like contemporary accounts of like going to England, and people are like, "Oh my god, these English are so emotional, always kissing each other," and it's like so alien.
Yeah. Well, and then there's like the American stereotype that the French are cheese-eating surrender monkeys, as the Simpsons put it.
Yeah.
Which is like totally. If you go back any further than like 1916, that doesn't make any sense.
Yep.
Like they were the most terrifying land army in all of Europe and possibly the world.
Yeah. So there's a reason the Napoleonic Wars went on for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Prussia had kind of supplanted them by the time World War One.
Even stereotypes, like if we go in other parts of the world, like there's the stereotype about Asians being very good at math.
Yeah.
A great part of that comes from the fact in most Asian languages, the way you count.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, to count to 100 in English, we need 27 different words. To count to 100 in Korean, you need 11.
I've heard about that. I actually at some point read an article, like a linguistics article, about it was specifically about Mandarin Chinese and how
they're similar with that. They don't.
Yeah, there's fewer syllables, and so your brain takes less time to process it, or something like that. But
not how it is in Chinese or Japanese, but in Korean, sam means 3, and oh good God, I just spaced. Il I sam sa o yuk chil pal ku ship. There you go. My brain went out the window. Ship. So sam is 3, ship is 10. And so if you say ship sam, you're saying 10-3, which is 13. If you say sam ship, you're saying 3-10, which is 30.
Okay. Yeah.
And then to say 100, you need bet, which is number 100. So 10 words can get you from 1 to 99. Which is just memorizing patterns for kids, which means that a kid can learn to count to 100 in Korean by the age of 4, when in America, that's a standard for first grade, which is 6 years old. And even then, some kids struggle with it.
That sounds a lot better than every other system.
Sorry, if people are hearing
it's like having
booming sounds on my... go for it.
Sorry. No, you're fine, actually. I couldn't hear anything.
Oh yeah, my dog is scratching her head against the bed and hitting my mic stand every time she does it. So if there's a very low frequency sound coming from my microphone, that's why.
Yeah, Dr. Vickel's saying in Norwegian they say 9-10-9 is 99. German does that too. They need a few more. It's not 27, but
German had a lot of ands to everything.
Yeah, 555.
Yeah, 29, 49. Yeah,
they add the ands, but it's still patterns, which also explains a lot of why, in terms of science, Germany was leading the way for such a long time until something happened and a lot of them fled to America.
Yeah. Also, funny. Also, English used to have the ands as well. If you've ever heard that nursery rhyme about the 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie, we used to count the way Germans did. And at some point we were like, let's just not say and. And then we sped it up, and that's
why we're 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So more than 20 years ago, though. If we go back all the way to 1444, we got a dev diary on the new Jewish mechanics in EU4. I think every religion in the game except animism has mechanics now. I think Judaism and animism are the only ones that didn't.
This should have been added so long ago. I remember converting a CK2 game where I conquered all of Britannia, and we become Jewish because court. What was? I had one of the random court guys, and I put him tutoring my kid, and he converted my kid to Judaism. I'm like, sure, let's go with this. So we were Welsh Jews who ruled Britannia.
There you go.
And I converted it to EU4, and it was so sad. There was nothing.
So it's interesting because it's sort of like the Protestant church power mechanic. There's fewer options per category, but what they actually do is a little bit more involved than most of the Protestant church aspects are. So like the admin ones will give you a flat bonus, but then they'll change what your celebrate festival button does, which is like something you can do every few years. That gives you another more powerful bonus, including one of them is +1 stability. So like Jewish realms are going to be very, very stable.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Really quite nice bonuses, and it all seems quite balanced, actually. Obviously, morale bonus is good. That's not unique to Judaism. Development cost is always lovely. So these are really, really nice. Really good.
Yeah. And so the diplomatic ones basically handle your treatment of other religions. You can either focus on, appeasing the heathens, keeping everybody who is Jewish counts as like a member of your accepted cultures, or what was the other one?
That's for dev cost, I think.
Or you could, the dev cost one just makes everybody else
like you, too.
Yeah, non-theocratic Christian and Muslim countries gain +35 opinion. So that's less of a domestic policy and more of a foreign policy benefit.
I think for dev costs, it's like if you stack dev costs, it's brilliant. It's towards the end of the game when you're deving up provinces like for 4 admin.
Right, I'm referring specifically to the special, the secondary special abilities.
I see. Sorry.
So basically, when you choose a diplomatic tenet for your faith, you are choosing: do I want to focus on keeping all the Jewish people in my realm happy regardless of culture? Do I want to focus on keeping all the Abrahamic people in my realm happy regardless of religion? Or do I want to focus on making other Abrahamic countries outside my borders like me more? And then I think the military ones, the special thing they get is based on how you earn more faith power. So it's either you get more for free as long as you're at war, you can get lump sums for sieging enemy forts, or winning a war. You get a much larger amount. This just seems like Protestantism plus to me. Like, this seems like the Protestant mechanics, except better.
And you can rebuild the third temple.
You can.
If you want to give up on making everyone happy, why not just...
Every Muslim country's opinion of you changes by -200, and they gain a diplomatic insult.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you plan to conquer them anyway...
Yeah, you better be in a pretty strong position, though, because you might be the only Jewish nation in the world. You probably are the only Jewish nation in the world. And all of your Muslim provinces will instantly revolt as well.
Yeah.
I wonder, if you went back and played a CK2 game, and you built the third temple in CK2, and then you transferred it into EU4, would you start off with this completed, or would you still have to rebuild the third temple again?
I would say you probably have to rebuild it, because let's face it, the CK2 converter is...
Yeah, it hasn't... I don't know if it's even still being maintained at this point. I haven't... I know there are people who have gone back to CK2, since we're just waiting for... We're poking CK3 with a stick, saying, come on, do something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have not played a converted CK2 to EU4 game in a very long time, so I don't know if it's still being maintained or not.
I don't think so. I think Grugi was in charge of that.
See, I just want to be the enlightened like liberal and say let's just adapt the temple to be usable by multiple faiths.
Yeah, I don't think that's
sure no one's ever thought of that. Yeah,
I think you've solved all the problems in the Middle East.
Yep, I just did it. Peace in the Middle East.
Well,
it's
let's
both.
have a giant temple complex and have 3 temples in it. One's technically a mosque, and one's a church, and one's a temple, but it's a complex.
Yeah, there you go. We could do levels, just more levels.
Yeah.
That won't upset anybody if one religion is literally above another one. Yeah. So, yeah, and then you got
which religion gets the penthouse suite on the double-decker temple.
Yeah. There's also some changes to West Africa. There's going to be a whole inhabited continuum of tags all the way across. Basically, the Darfur trade route that runs kind of along the Sahel now, which is cool. They've added some new missions. One that looks very cool to me is Oyo, which they get like they have like the fetishist holy city, and their goal is to kind of like preserve fetishism against the expanse of Islam, which is pretty interesting.
Here's a question: how did a religion that we know as fetishism, but that also has an entirely different meaning?
Yeah, it's I don't know where the other meaning of fetish came into being. It's one of those weird religions in EU4 that represents like a vast continuum of unrelated folk beliefs.
Yeah.
Which I kind of got, for gameplay simplicity reasons, why they would do that. It would be very difficult to actually model every single
it'd be
individual African religions.
Hundreds of different religions if you started to model.
Mm-hmm.
Like within a single province in EU4, you could have 10, 12 different religions.
Yeah.
If you wanted to get,
same with an extent to totemism, I guess, too, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's even true of like the European pagan faiths in CK2's time period.
Yeah.
There were lots of local cults in like the Slavic, Baltic, and Nordic areas. It was not by any means a unified church where everyone did the same thing everywhere you went.
Catholicism wasn't even
no, it wasn't.
I mean, even if you go to like Greek religion, every area had its own major gods. Like they all had Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, but aside from that, oh no, Dionysus is our king here. I mean, yeah, technically Zeus is, but we forget about him. We'll just worship Dionysus.
No, I was reading. You bring up Catholicism, Laura. So I was reading recently about how like a lot of times like the bishop's job in the Middle Ages would just be to go around and like see what people were doing, try to determine whether it was heretical, and two, like if it was heretical enough that the church needed to do something about it.
Yeah.
Like it was even within Catholicism, it was a very wide spectrum of practice, and like you could maybe kind of get away with some heresy if it like wasn't too bad of heresy and your bishop was kind of a chill guy.
So yeah.
Then like the Cathars, that was like too far. They're like, no, we're not going to allow that.
well, look how long like the Lollards Scots tolerated for basically.
Guys, we've become the favorite linguistics podcast for Dogberry.
Oh, fantastic!
Discussing accounting systems and the multiple meanings of the word fetish.
Nice. I'm glad.
Apparently, from Lord Tataris, fetish gained a sexual context in the late 1890s to early 1900s. Its origin is pretty racist, so we blame it on the Victorians. Got it.
Okay, yeah. Maybe the religion should just be called African instead. I don't know. There's also a new thing for, I believe it's a doll. Oh no, it's Sofala, where they can basically do the Zheng He reversed mission, because Zheng He, the famous Chinese explorer, actually came to East Africa, and you have an option if you're playing as one of the East African minor tags to go visit China and return the favor. So that's kind of cool.
People did go with Zheng He back to China. They didn't return to where they came from often, but like they did go visit, I guess. And
that
stay.
would make sense.
Which probably would. I mean, like say, like if you went on Her's ship, and it was like, oh, I'm going to go to like probably one of the most economically vibrant and places in the world and be treated really well, albeit probably like a curiosity, but nonetheless be pretty well treated. Like I'd stay in China.
This was the other.
Europeans stayed in China.
True. Yeah. I wouldn't mind visiting for like a year or so. That would be kind of cool.
Here's Hercules brings up an interesting thing in chat. Speaking of the Victorian area, I wonder if the various African religions will be religions in Vicky 3, or will they be just animism like in Vicky 2?
That's really interesting. That's an interesting question. Yeah. I mean, CK3 is, several steps ahead of EU4 in that they added, Buddhism and a lot of the other like African traditional religions.
It's not just all lumped under paganism or animism,
right?
Fetishism.
Yeah, they have at least 4 or 5 African traditional religions. So
the Victorian period saw a much greater
the missionaries.
Missionaries, Islamification, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Which that would also be something interesting, like if we're talking about diplomatic and subjects in Vicky 3. Let's say you had Ghana as your protectorate.
Yeah.
Would you have a thing to like encourage missionaries or discourage missionaries, or
that would make sense? That would definitely make sense.
Yeah.
Because a lot of countries saw spreading religion as a way to sort of keep the people under control.
Well, it was more of
sketchy as that is.
It was more of I think a Victorian mission to civilize, as I saw it. Right? They saw spread Christianity.
Well, the whole reason Hawaii is part of the U.S., right?
I don't know. So I don't know much of it. I know
because missionaries went there. Some of them married locals. Some of them didn't. They got wealthy. And then they didn't like that Hawaii wasn't part. So they led a revolution, took over Hawaii, and pretty much forced the U.S. to take them. That's the very condensed version, but you can blame the missionaries. Starting it off.
The other really interesting thing here is they're actually they're trying to represent Jolof as basically a tribal confederacy of independent kingships, which is like the sort of less intensive way to not just like break it up into a bunch of tags that are all like vassals of somebody.
Yeah.
Which would work for a lot of areas of the world. I do feel like these mechanics where it's like, oh, you have to revoke estate privileges to represent centralizing the government more. This is starting to feel a little bit like CK2 Horse Lords to me. Where it's like we have hit the limit of what we can represent historically with this game, and we're trying to find kind of hacky ways to do it. And it's a little bit awkward.
Did y'all discuss last week? I think it was Johan's tweet saying that EU4 has a lot more to go for it.
Yes. Which I mean, I just disagree with. Like, I'm kind of wrapping up my relationship with EU4. I really would rather they just announce EU5 at this point.
Well, EU4 came out a year after CK2. Well, a year and like 6 months. So it's after.
And I don't want to say that like it's a bad game. It's a fantastic game. It's just I've played it for like 8-9 years at this point.
They've added so much stuff to it now that you have to bend over backwards to get stuff to work. And which is the problem CK2 is having too.
And by the time Victoria 3 comes out, like EU4 is going to look ancient.
Mm-hmm.
Like by comparison. The
next game after Vicky 3 had better be EU5.
I hope.
Probably it.
I hope so. I hope Johan is just trolling us on Twitter by saying they're not going to announce EU5 and they're going to announce it at the next PDXCon.
No, I'm ambivalent by either way. I'm happy with more expansions and I'd be happy with, obviously be very happy with new EU4. But I could see a few more expansions. Could be.
Well, here's a question. These mission trees and changing up to Judaism and stuff, would these be just as viable as a mod?
I don't know if the Judaism mechanics would be. All the mission tree stuff could probably be done as a mod. I mean,
yeah, they could. Yeah, but
when you say when people say that, I do want to hedge that by saying that like what mod creators make and what a professional content designer who does this as their full-time job makes are not always necessarily comparable.
No, definitely not. Like you just look at Holy Fury compared to CK2 Plus.
I think there are some very, very good focus tree mods, like for Hearts of Iron 4. I also think there are some very popular ones that are extremely bloated and unbalanced.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name names, but
I will.
think
Road to 56. There we are.
It is much easier to make a focus tree that is a collection of ideas you thought were cool thrown together than it is to make one that is balanced and plays well with all the other focus trees in the game.
Oh, definitely.
So,
a question from Hercules. Do you think EU5 should have mission trees?
I would rather that it has something more like Imperator, where you pick a mission tree, like that kind of content.
Yeah, some form
a little
of
more
mission tree
replayability
for sure. Like
yeah.
I do quite like that. I do like mission trees a lot. I think it.
Well, it's especially helpful when you're playing a new country or you don't quite know what you're doing fully.
I just like how it guides in a sort of historical direction. I quite like that. You play as the Dutch, you know you're going to get claims on East Indies. Plays Britain, you're going to get claims on India.
Right.
I don't like it when it veers off into mad worlds like Austria, but I quite like a sort of historical nudge.
Well, I like that it kind of teaches you. Like, I didn't know what the Oyo Kingdom was before I played EU4.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh yeah, they were the ones that were kind of like the guardians of traditional beliefs during Islamification. Like, I like learning little stuff like that.
Yeah, same. I think that's like most of the joy in Paradox games, right?
Yeah. And I don't feel like Dimsomniac saying I like what they bring to gameplay, but also it's sometimes very railroady. I think that can feel that way in Hearts of Iron. In EU4, I feel like if I want to just completely ignore the mission tree, I can.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can forget they're there, honestly, a lot of the time. And it's fine, because, like...
Until suddenly you get a random pop-up, hey, you did this!
Yeah,
wait, what?
Like, cool. Yeah. Like,
I'm good at free money I didn't expect.
Yeah, if I'm good enough at EU4 at this point that if I'm playing against the AI, I don't need the bonuses from the mission trees to win. Yeah. I can just completely go off and do my own thing if I feel like it. So
I don't mind railroading. I mean, like, I love.
Well, you do like trains, so
love trains,
yeah.
Well, here's the thing: if you're being railroaded, you can never take a step back.
That's true. This one's Hearts of Iron, I guess. It's supposed to be about art.
Beautiful art, which is Loris's cup of tea here.
Yeah, but we've already seen this art. It's basically how you draw something. I didn't find this. I didn't find this too interesting, but maybe somebody who doesn't know how the process of drawing works would find it interesting. Basically, using reference images and drawing a picture. It's nothing too like mind blowing.
It is kind of like a drawing tutorial. We also got to see some new portraits down at the bottom.
Yeah. There's a few interesting ones.
Whenever Hoi 5 comes out, they can't top these portraits.
Maybe they'll do 3D with Hoi 5. I don't know.
They've really we're ballpark on these portraits.
I really like this. It is a great style. Like, it's a very readable style, and it looks realistic enough, but not like weird. Yeah.
It doesn't hit that uncanny valley point. Like, you can tell they're like oil portraits or something.
Yeah.
It does that very good thing where I think all the best portraits for Hearts of Iron does is high contrast images. Like, shadows are not that shadowy in real life. These are really stylized Renaissance style shadows, which is great. I love it. I love these sort of high impact things. This is an interesting portrait. We've got I can't remember any of these people's names. This guy's a Spaniard. He was a guy who assassinated Trotsky. but presumably he can become a leader in some form, which is
he might be a spy.
He could. Yes. That makes more
sense.
sense.
That's probably That's probably.
I mean, look at the very last portrait. I think that's a lady.
Yeah. Again, I forget her name. She was a Polish politician.
I've seen her before. Purged. I don't remember her name either, though.
She was opposed to Stalin and she got purged. That's about it. And she was Polish. Apart from that, I don't know much about her. So.
Yeah, that tended to happen if you were opposed to Stalin.
Yeah.
It's generally how it ended. Yeah.
Yeah, we got Cossacks.
Yeah, we got some new focus icons as well.
Yes, and they are lovely. Big fan.
They're very good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so not a lot of mechanical detail on Hearts of Iron, but we got some pretty pictures.
Yeah,
we did get some mechanical detail about Stellaris, though.
We did. Finally, we get a look at. I'm
actually really excited. I want to play some aquatic people.
Yeah.
The angler one doesn't do like a ton for me. That's like, we fish instead of farm.
Seems very powerful. I think the farmer they're objectively better than farmers. I think. Yeah,
I mean they are, and they produce trade value, which is nice. I guess fishmongers,
consumer goods. Like having what produces food for you also produce a few consumer goods. Mm-hmm. That can really help your economy budgeted, especially if you want to do a heavy alloy production.
That is true, yeah.
And let's say if you combined anglers with I forgot the trait, the one that basically means that your people use like 10% less consumer goods.
Is that conservationist?
I think conservationist. Yeah. And so if you combine the two of them, you might be able to squeak by with very minimal buildings based for consumer goods.
Yeah.
That would be nice. That would definitely be nice. Yeah, so hydrocentric. We were wondering last week, like, we saw this Colossus that can like flood planets, and it's like, how does this act? Like, is this magic? It's actually that you're going to have to create ice mining stations on your star bases, which is just presumably within any given solar system, you can send ships out to find ice somewhere. Because this is just a building that you build on the star base. It's not on a specific planet or anything.
Yeah.
If you think you've got an asteroid belt out there, you can find ice all throughout it.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense, I think. And so you'll be able to expand the planetary ocean. So basically dump more water on it to increase the size of the planet. It's kind of funny, I guess, if you think about it. Yeah, you could just keep dumping water on an ocean world. And its volume will expand eventually.
Which, if you start with the Ocean Paradise, which is a size 30 planet, how much bigger can you make it?
I'm curious. Did they say how many times you can use this?
What's a cap?
I don't see a cap.
Is it
expand planetary sea decision, which will increase the planet size by 1. That's all it says.
Yeah,
you get like a size 40 planet.
There has to be a limit at some point, right? I mean,
maybe it costs more every time.
Yeah, because if you think about it, to expand to expand the diameter of the planet, it would become, the volume relative to the diameter would become, it's exponential. Math people know what I'm saying. I don't have the words.
Here's Kazi having a suggestion. What if you turned your Ocean Paradise into like say a size 50 planet, and then you converted it into an ecomopolis?
Oh yeah.
So it's no gods, no kings. Just build Rapture in just the entire planet is Rapture. Yeah.
And if you're hearing Castanar in chat bringing reality to us, if you add too much water, you're not really adding living space, as the pressure in the deeper water would be too high for your species to live.
Yeah.
We could design sturdier habitats, maybe.
But surely, as you expand, the surface area on the top of the ocean slowly becomes bigger, right?
Well, then what should happen is you can keep doing it as long as you want. But eventually it will get so big that the core of the planet will just compress down and it turns into a gas giant or something. Like eventually the amount of pressure being exerted by all of this water becomes too great for it to remain habitable.
Yeah, you increase the gravitational pull so much that the moons in the orbit of a planet start coming closer and closer into your planet.
It says here for expand planetary C, its planet size of Beck +1, ice will be harvested from a system with an ice mining station on the starbase, and then 1,000 energy, 50 influence, 720 ticks.
So this won't be for all aquatic species. This is an ascension perk that you can pick.
Yep.
It also
you could do it for all aquatic species.
Right,
you just have to get the expansion. The perk. You need the perk. Ascension perk.
It also increases the benefits for living on an ocean world by 50%, which is huge.
Yeah.
But penalties for living on non-wet worlds are also increased by 50%.
I would assume wet would also be there's continental and tropical.
Yeah, it seems like they can probably live on continental and tropical without much problem. It seems like maybe, I don't know, maybe, I guess tundra would be similar, but yeah, I guess it's easier to just pick a category of planet than to...
What I want to know if the two can be, like, combined if you're an aquatic species, because you can add the aquatic species trait to anything, right? Because you have aquatic plantoids.
Yep, you don't have to have a dolphin. You can do it with the geckos.
Yeah. Well, there's a ton of molluscoid. There's a ton of molluscoid portraits already that would work for aquatics.
Oh yeah, those would work great for ocean worlds.
Yeah.
But yeah, so say if you got a plantoid, and you get two traits essentially. You have a plantoid trait and the aquatic trait. You have a seaweed.
That's interesting. Like, yeah, seaweed people.
Same with rock people.
Yeah.
Sea rocks.
Your coral.
Yeah, coral.
Oh, that'd be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah.
I mean, and we do have. Well, I talked about the Ocean Paradise origin, where you get bonuses to food and pop growth and size 30 planet.
Yeah, it's essentially a watery Gaia world, right?
Though your guaranteed habitable planets are frozen worlds. So you get ice.
Yeah, so I guess the idea is you're just supposed to bring the ice back to your home world and make it bigger.
Yeah.
There's also the Here Be Dragons, where you start with a space dragon just roaming your home system.
Yeah.
And it says it can protect you, but it can also become hostile
if you don't treat it right. Which, like, if you don't sacrifice a virgin to it on the full moon, like, what do you have to do to keep this space dragon happy?
I guess if my species reproduces asexually, we're all technically virgins, so we could just sacrifice anybody.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Sacrifice the criminals.
Yeah,
murderers, instead of going to be executed or prison or whatever, they go to the space dragon. Rehabilitates them.
I was talking before the show about how I would love to make a water race that's like inward perfection with the Here Be Dragons origin, where they're like a celestial empire.
Yeah.
But the mandate of heaven is like literally a dragon that lives in space. They'd probably be fanatic spiritualists, because like if there's literally a dragon that just like flies around the planet, you're probably going to be, a spiritualist. So I could think of some really cool ideas you could do with this.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'd be interested to know how powerful it is too.
God.
Because basically you're basically protected from incursion for ages. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
And next week we get to look at the art, the aquatic ships.
Yeah, we've got a little preview image of it, and it looks very pretty. Although
I do like
I did think the guns at the top looks a bit like plugs, like plugs, which I guess is thematic. But I imagine if you take the gun off the top, all the water's going to come out of the ship.
Yeah, they're just they're super soakers. That's
super
how their weapons
soakers.
Work. Yeah, people have already been calling the Doomsday weapon the Super Soaker Colossus. I love that there's like water inside the ship, like it's suggesting that they're like swimming around inside there. I wish they had done something similar with the species like room background. Even if you just slap like a filter over it, like a blue filter with some bubbles, that would be cool. maybe the modders will do that, or maybe they'll hear me say that and be like, "Oh yeah, maybe we can make that work." But
and I do like the puns they made in here. Remember to fish list it on Steam.
Nice.
Oh, okay. Well, on that, I think we should probably
end on a high.
I've lost my will to live now. Loris, you been doing anything interesting lately?
Yeah, I've been working on a little project. Can't really talk much about it, but done a bit of work on that and DIY. And I broke a bit of my wall, as you can see if anyone's watching a webcam. A little bit of wall there, which I need to fix.
Isn't that a wall you just built recently?
Well, it's just a decorative thing, and I walked past it and I caught my coat on the side of it and rip all the paint off the wall.
Oh no!
So it's easy enough to fix.
Yeah,
that's why it was a bit
easier than your stairs.
The stairs are pretty much done now. Pretty much done.
I was gonna say we haven't asked about your stairs in a long time.
Yeah, the stairs are. It's just I've just used rough wood at the top because I'm still walking up and down in dirty boots, and if I put the nice wood on, I'll just ruin it. So that's the last job, along with all the floors. So
nice, excellent. Rose, what have you been up to?
Playing Stardew.
Yeah.
Dealing with the rosebud right now. Which you might have just heard my husband calling at him in Korean in the background. It sounds like he's probably trying to climb on the kitchen table.
Are you raising him to be bilingual? Like, is he going to speak English and Korean?
We're trying.
That's cool. That's really cool.
The thing is, my husband and I, we speak English to each other. And so if he's talking to me, it's in English. And the rosebud is with me, whenever my husband's at work. So English is definitely more natural to him, but he does know some Korean.
I wish I had been raised bilingual. Like, I think it's such an advantage to
it's
just grow up speaking more than one language.
Oh yeah, Dimsomniac is tempted to create a tangent about the new game from Stardew.
Oh yeah,
it looks really good. I'll just anything Concerned Ape makes, I will buy. Just like these kind of whimsical tycoon games with RPG Maker graphics. I'll buy 10 of them. I'll buy 20. Just give them to me.
It's just so peaceful. I think part of the reason I love Stardew so much, I was really enjoying it, and then I just played the hell out of it right after my grandmother passed away because it was just it was escape.
Yeah,
it was an escape, and I love games like CK and Humankind, Civ, any of those, but they're not quite the same escape.
Right. Well,
and even Dragon Age, like an RPG, it doesn't have that happy feel-good escape level to it.
Yeah.
I can also play Stardew on my.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can also play Stardew on my Switch, so I could just lay down and play Stardew Valley in bed, which is good.
Just looking at my Switch, I bought a Switch just to play Animal Crossing. Animal Crossing is easily the most money I've dumped into a game because I bought an entire console just to play one video game.
My husband and I have been discussing getting a Switch, and I might back it even harder just for the idea that I could play Stardew Valley sitting on the sofa while the rosebud plays.
Yeah, it's a great option to have.
Yeah.
Well, as for me, I reviewed Age of Empires 4. You can go check out my review of that.
It's a very good review. It's very well.
It comes out tomorrow, doesn't it?
I think it's tomorrow. The embargo day.
Yeah. Gosh, is it tomorrow? 28th.
Age of Empires 4.
It is the 28th. Yep, it's tomorrow.
So it is tomorrow. It's on Game Pass. Hit me up on Twitter or something if you want to play. Lampert and I have played some multiplayer matches, and that's a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'll be joining you. I'm going to get on Game Pass for sure.
Absolutely. I need to get it. I think I'm just going to drop the $60 on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I figure, how much is Game Pass? It's like a $5 a month, isn't it? Or a little bit.
I think it's gone up.
It's I think it's $5 a month for your first month, and then it's $10 a month after that, or something like that.
Yeah, so you'd have to be playing Age of Empires for 6 months for the same sort of thing. Plus, with Game Pass, you get.
But here's the thing: a game like Age of Empires, I would play the hell out of for a month, and then I'll leave it alone and come back in 6 months. So I want to get a subscription every time.
Yeah, true.
I think it's very worth it for me, but it might not be for everybody. Yeah, but I've been having
you get to play
fun with
Psychonauts too, so
Yeah, there's quite a bit of stuff on there that I would not have played otherwise, like the Dark Pictures anthology, like that horror like cinematic game. Probably never would have played that if it wasn't on Game Pass. All of the Yakuza games are on Game Pass, which people have been telling me to play for years. Finally started Yakuza 0. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Humankind's and Paradox stuff I'd buy outright anyway, right? So like,
although the Yakuza games on Game Pass are ports of the Xbox version instead of the PC version, so there's a lot of stuff you can't do, which also Game Pass games are not moddable because they're locked in some sort of like proprietary Microsoft black box, so I don't like that very much. I will still probably buy most of the games that I end up liking separately, especially if I want to mod them. But
I think Game Pass is having like Blockbuster.
Yeah,
it's style Blockbuster.
It's a good way to play games that like you don't really care about mods, and it's like it's a 10-hour experience, and you probably wouldn't have played it otherwise. So
yeah, like
yeah.
Oh, what was the name of it? The RPG. Oh, no, it's not Elysium Fields. I played it on stream. Santo might remember. Or Dogberry.
Yeah.
What was it? It came out 2 years ago. Oh, good God. It was an RPG. It wasn't on Steam. I think it was on Epic. Was Outer Worlds. Outer Worlds, yes. Yes. That was it.
Whoa, I played that Outer Worlds is amazing. If you have
it's amazing, but it's not something I would be willing to like. I wouldn't be playing 700 hours.
Yeah, that's a great Game Pass game because once you finish it, you're done with it.
Yeah,
like you might want to replay it later, but there's not anything really left to do.
I never played it because it was
expansion came out for it.
There is an expansion now.
I'll check it out because it came out when Disco Elysium came out, right? And it was like
I was
like, oh, I've got to get one RPG. Oh, am I going to get Outer Worlds or Disco Elysium? And everyone else seemed to get Outer Worlds, and I was like a massive hipster back then. Obviously, I'm not now. Yeah, but like I was like, I'll get Disco Elysium, and man, I made the right option. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard that's really good.
Amazing.
Oh, I'm getting Outer Worlds mixed up with Outer Wilds again.
Oh.
Outer Worlds is the RPG from Obsidian
Entertainment.
That is basically New Vegas in space.
Yeah.
Outer Wilds is the one that I'm talking about where there's nothing left to do after you're done with it.
All right.
Outer Worlds you could probably still play for quite a while because it's an open world space RPG.
It's sort of open world. It's about as open world as like the first Kodar game.
It's multiple open worlds that are connected by getting in a spaceship and flying to them. Yeah.
But like once you get on the world, you don't really want to leave it again until you finish it.
Yes.
And sometimes you can't.
Yeah. So follow the podcast on all our social media and stuff, and we'll be
next
back
week. We should have a special guest.
Yeah. Next week. We will be having a special guest on, so we'll see you then.
Take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.